Gopatarubhyascha Kripasindu Bhevacha Patitanam Bapavevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Go Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Sri Radha Damodar ki. So, give a very short basic class. In so many ways, the first few days we come into the Krishna conscious environment, we hear everything that needs to be heard to be able to go back to Godhead. Sometimes one experiences a spiritual community or philosophy where as you are around, you are exposed to more esoteric knowledge. As you are participating and qualify yourself, you become aware of what the goal of that particular pursuit is. Well, in Krishna consciousness, practically the first lecture we hear Sambandha, Abhideya, and also Prarojana. We hear what is the relationship, what are the activities, what is the goal. We hear that we're not the bodies, that we are eternal associates, eternal servants of the Lord. We hear and find out why we've come into this world and also how to get out. Now, after the initial hearing is the process of trying to understand. After we're exposed to the Gyan, then we are to be hungry for the Vigyan, where we are hearing, we are understanding, and then we are experiencing. The hearing is really to prepare us for the experience that comes as we have the proper understanding. So I've been, especially lately, trying to see how to understand things a deeper way, and most important, how to experience. Sometimes people think that the Vaishnavas are too morbid because we talk too much about the hereafter, or we talk so much about transition, the eternality of the soul. But they say, what about the enjoyment now? What about the experiences for getting specific happiness now? And what about making life better for us, where we can enjoy and be comfortable and have protection now? But those things are definitely important. So I was listening to a lecture a little while ago, or early this afternoon, and Prabhupada was making some comment many, many years ago in the 70s. The political economic situation has changed, but he was passing through Bangkok, and he was saying how that people here are too poor to take to Krishna consciousness. It's unusual because we know that everyone has opportunity to take to Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is for everyone. So what did Prabhupada mean? People are too poor. People in Bangkok are not anywhere as poor as they were in those days. But what we can understand from that is that when someone is very poor, that so much of their consciousness goes toward just trying to make money or just trying to survive. So Prabhupada was saying in general, because they're so preoccupied only with economic development, there will be a serious problem in such people being able to take to Krishna consciousness. So Maya has many ways to preoccupy us. to try to allow us to forget about what our real duty is. Because so many lifetimes we have pursued economic development, and sometimes we've done it a lot better than other times. And sometimes we've been high achievers, but it didn't get us out of the material world and out of the material bodies. And so there's so many other things we may pursue, whether it is moksha, whether it's karma, whether it's advaita. There's so many different ways that the body and the mind can be occupied to the degree that we forget about why we're really here. So I want to discuss that briefly today. I'm spending time now writing a beggar on death or near-death experiences as a way for self-purification, for self-anticipation, and hopefully for sharing as well, and for the specific process of trying to go beyond thinking only of the body at a time when there is more need for me to think and be body conscious in some ways than ever before, but a time to think of the body to transcend the body. It's like almost the first day we come into the Sangha of devotees. We hear Natweva Ham Tato Nasam Natwam Nemi Janadi Paha. The Chaiva Nama Vishama. Sarve Yata Param, I think. Sarve. That never was there a time, Krishna says, when he or Arjuna did not exist. Never was a time that the kings did not exist. Never was there a time that the Kurus, the Pandavas didn't exist. Never was there a time that any of us did not exist. And never will there be a time when we will cease to exist. Dehi no smenyata dehe komaram yavanam jara. Tatata hantara paptis diras tatanam buyanti. They're diras, they're those who are not bewildered by the soul in its embodied state, going from that of an infant to a youth to an adult to an elderly person, and then making a transition to a new body, or hopefully a transition where one is in his or her original swarup. But exactly what is that, and what does it actually mean? So the Prabhupada says in Bhagavatam how this existence is to die gloriously like Bhishma Dev. That human existence is not to become a famous athlete, not to become a great musician, not to become a great renunciate, not to become a great householder, not to become a great developer, not to become a great yogi, and not to become a great pandit, not to become a great rishi, a shrutidar, not to become a man, a woman, a child, a boy or a girl. Human life is to prepare and to be able to die gloriously like Bhishma Dev. That means all other things in some way is temporary and secondary at best, and at worst are direct interference to one's spiritual growth. Death is designed to remove everything that is transitory, temporary, relative, secondary away. Death is a chance where that which is most essential only to remain. So death actually is the opportunity to have to look at all of those secondary things right in the face. Face to face or right before us, to evaluate and to look to see if we have made them our priorities, or whether they are something that we have used to move through them and to rise above them. So when people think that the Vaishnavas are somewhat morbid, that we talk so much about death, or we live for preparing to move on into our original home, that we do not analyze and evaluate and deal with the present, No, we are to deal with the present because that is Krishna's energies, but we are to deal with it as a way that the owner would be satisfied and to be pleased. And so our entire spiritual journey, our entire process of going through this samsara, life after life and death, and there's, just as there is birth, of course, there is death, is to again bring us to a point where we're confronted with the secondary, the temporary, and the relative, and to see if we want some of that still or if we are ready to rise above it. So today I want to share a reflection on die before dying. We could have addressed this also as dying daily, because daily we have to die in terms of giving up anarthas, moving away from unwanted habits, unwanted culture, and to accept that which is sanatana, that which is eternal. So every time we die to some bad habit, we die to some deviation, we die to some illusion, we die to different kind of confusion within ourselves, our families, our communities, within the world, then we really are now becoming alive. Because they do not go concomitantly. We can't be so dead and be alive at the same time. We can't be so attached. We can't have so much attraction to sense gratification and go for that kind of ruchi and be able at the same time to get the higher understanding, realizations, and tastes. And so we literally are to die every day in terms of looking at what now next needs to be removed so that something higher can come forth. And so we associate in our different sanghas to do this individually and collectively. We associate to try to become totally out of our dormant state, or out of the state of the walking dead, and to become genuinely alive. And sometimes we only are able to do that through the death or the near-death experience, where we are literally forced to have to look closer at what is secondary, what is temporary, what is relative and transitory. The nature of material illusion is so thick. The nature of how much people play into it and become absorbed and entangled is so thick that it's only with extreme mercy that one can rise above it. And it's so much associated with the quality of our desires and the quality of our sanghas. Just as someone is being born, someone is dying. We've had an amazing number of devotees in the last 4 or 6 months who have left their bodies. And surely in the last couple of years, we've had an amazing number of grandparents and parents and relatives who have left their bodies. And so we have a syndrome of grandparents leaving, and then parents, and then peers. And each time one hears of such a passing, it should impact upon the individual to what degree are they ready to make the transition. To what degree the secondary things in our life are secondary. We take care of them. We do not lose our focus that they are secondary. When we die before dying, that means that we are ready while we're doing so many things, maintaining, pursuing, while we're involved in all kinds of activities. We have not let them fully engulf us, or we have minimized our spiritual life. While we're doing so many things, we realize in a moment, everything can change. In moments, someone is inattentive and they have an accident and they die. In moments, one finds that they were healthy, that now they're chronically ill. In moments, one comes down with a heart attack. In moment, one makes a mistake in their profession, in their job, and now for the rest of their life, they're marked. They make a mistake with passion, and they kill someone, or they do something that's seemingly out of their control by the extemporaneous situation, and then they suffer for the rest of their lives, or when someone else suffers for the rest of their lives. And these moments are a part of the Mahatattva that take place every day. Some choices, some karma that comes upon one that now puts them in a situation that is there for the rest of their life. The choices that we made in previous lives have given us something we're experiencing in this life. The choices we make in the near future is determining what the far future will in fact be. And all of those choices are to be evaluated, whether we are keeping primary things that are first, or whether there are choices where we're putting more energy into the secondary. What we see, what we hear, what we experience is part of all of our lives, but more important is how we interpret and how we act upon that. Everyone is giving full facilitation, full chance to keep everything that is primary, primary. And each person is responsible for what he or she does in that particular quest and pursuit. Die before dying. Death becomes glorious, like Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev dying on the battlefield, Bhishma Dev dying, sharing philosophy, Bhishma Dev dying, preparing others, Bhishma Dev dying, with his life having lots of value because Krishna is there and Krishna is pleased with how he has lived, and his death is very similar to how gloriously he has lived. And he leaves a legacy. Just as there is life, there is death. Someone or something takes birth, grows, stays for some time, deteriorates, and we know then dies. Another name for birth is death. We see that as Vaishnavas, when someone dies, we have victory celebration, we have feast, we reflect on their leelas, their pastimes, we pray for their soul, and if all is wonderful, we are sad that we will not be able to associate with them in the physicality anymore, but we're happy knowing that they have gone on before us, that they have been successful. And even if they do not go directly back to the spiritual world, we know that person has been a proper Vaishnava. They have graduated from where they were to preparing themselves for ultimate graduation, liberation, and pure service. So when we are hearing of a birth, we also realize that death has taken place somewhere, and some soul has now reincarnated again. We also know that that soul that is incarnated at some point is going to be confronted with whether or not they're still into the secondary and primary things, where they have to take another birth if they made those the priority. You cannot have one without the other, meaning that when someone is born, someone will soon die, as most species do not even live very long. When someone dies, someone is born. Everyone and everything in its normal state wants to live as long as possible.